Microphone check. Microphone check. You guys good? Thumbs up? Good? Okay.
I'm good, Trace. How are you? Thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, we're here at a Super Bowl in Las Vegas, right? Let that just, settle into your mind for a second. A city that was taboo for so many decades with the NFL. Just start by taking us back through the journey, how we wound up here for this week.
Well, I would give Mark Davis a lot of credit right off the top because I think before Mark even got here, he was talking about a Super Bowl. He believed this would be a great Super Bowl location. So when he got the relocation approval, that was one of the first things he started talking about is, well, when are we going to get a Super Bowl? And I said, Mark, we got to play a regular season game here first. But it's this stadium is extraordinary. You all were here. We can feel it. I think they've done an amazing job with that stadium, and that's our stage. So for us, the stadium is key. The city is key. This city really knows how to put on big events, and we've seen that. We feel it. We felt it all year from our fans. It is the number one place for visiting team fans to come to a game. So we knew this would be a popular place for it. Well, it's our number one objective. This is true gambling and outside of gambling, right? The integrity of our game is critical. And so we spend a lot of time focusing on that, educating, making sure that all of our personnel are aware of our gambling policies in this case or any other policy that can affect the integrity of our game. So ultimately, that's our primary job. This week coming in here, we wanted to make sure not just the two teams, but every other club will likely have representatives here. We wanted to make sure they understood it, our league staff and everyone else, so they understood exactly what the policies were. And they all understand the importance of it. We clarified our policy earlier this year, and it was to put the importance for our players that betting on NFL games or inside information or anything that would negatively impact the integrity of our game is absolutely off limits.
Let's talk about ratings right now. Both championship games, over 50 million viewers. What do you attribute those record-breaking numbers to? And in all honesty, how much is it the Taylor Swift effect?
I would tell you it's because of the great competition. Listen, the competition has been off the charts this year. We've had 70 games that I think 70% of our games have been within one score in the fourth quarter. The young stars, the older stars, the amazing performances by teams, you see all that. That's what fans ultimately love. Having the Taylor Swift effect is also a positive. Listen, both Travis and Taylor are wonderful young people. They seem very happy. She knows great entertainment. And I think that's why she loves NFL football. But I think it's great to have her a part of it. Obviously, it creates a buzz. It creates another group of young fans, particularly young women, that are interested in seeing why is she going to this game? Why is she interested in this game? Besides Travis, she's a football fan. And I think that's great for us.
What do you say to those who think it's all scripted by the NFL?
I don't think I'm that good a scripter or anybody on our staff. I think it's, listen, there is no way that I could have scripted that one. Let's just put it that way. But she is, or anybody in our office, she's a remarkable performer. She knows great entertainment. I had the opportunity to go to 2 of her concerts with our girls and my wife. She's the best of the best. And so having her come to NFL games, have her a part of that is nothing but a positive.
Let's move on to officiating. A lot of scrutiny again this season. What are you doing to assess the officials and to improve their credibility?
We even had scrutiny yesterday in the Pro Bowl games. I think, listen, in professional sports and all sports, officiating is part of that. I think in the NFL, the level of scrutiny is at the highest I've ever seen it. And that's part of our popularity. I understand that. It's part of the technology. You all do such a great job that you see more than you could ever see in officiating. The game is faster. I think our officials do a great job. They are superior. But at the end of the day, no one's perfect, whether it's all of us that watches the games or play the games or coach the games or the officials. We have to continue to try to get better. We have to use technology where we can to try to improve their performance, let them use technology to make sure they get the right answer. But I think they do an incredible job, but we're going to keep working to get better, ultimately.
Ryan, do we want to open up for questions?
Yes, we do. Let's begin with our host newspaper from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Jenny Bonsignore. If you're able, please stand to ask your question.
Welcome to Las Vegas, first of all, Roger.
Thank
I want
you.
to take you back to March of 2017 when the league approved Mark Davis and the Raiders to move here. And I was just curious what your expectations and maybe some apprehensions were at that particular time. And fast forward now to 2024, Super Bowl is here, the stadium is up. How those expectations have been met and any apprehensions or concerns as well?
I think you've exceeded all expectations on every level. I think the stadium is extraordinary. I think the fan support here is nothing short of a miracle and positive. There's so many fans who like to come in from out of town here. I couldn't think of a negative thing about it. I think Las Vegas has also done an extraordinary job with this city, with the ability to host these big events, the ability to attract people here for a lot more than what people used to. People used to say this was just a gambling town. This is an entertainment town. This is a sports town. It's an event town. We're seeing that in the Super Bowl. And this doesn't happen without people who know how to do that. So from the governor to the county commissioners to the Convention and Visitors Bureau to the Super Bowl host committee, all done an extraordinary job. And that makes us feel much more comfortable here. Because the challenges of putting on an event like this, whether you're in Las Vegas or any other city, are enormous. And there's why we don't sleep until Monday night when we get everybody out of town.
Let's go to Jason Reed, Anscape, from ESPN.
Hey, Roger, how you doing?
Good, Jason.
The league has been very intentional about addressing inclusive hiring. And the last few cycles have seen games among team presidents, general managers, and this one with head coaches. So how do you feel about that? Because I asked you about this in Dallas, and obviously that's the trend that's going on. But also, what do you think about the fact that it appears you won't have any black offensive coordinators coming up in this season?
Yeah, Jason, I'd say the same thing I said to you all last year and the year before. We still have a lot of work to do. We are not satisfied where we are. We think that diversity is very good for us as a league. It's made us better. It gives opportunities to talented people. I think the hiring cycle was obviously encouraging from the head coaching standpoint. As you point out, we don't look at this just in the coaching level or offensive coordinators. We look at this across the board. We look at this from coaching to ownership to presidents to general managers, and we've seen extraordinary progress in all of that. And that's the effort that we've had with our clubs. I give our clubs tremendous credit. I think the process that they went through in the hiring cycle for coaches and general managers this year was very thorough, very professional. I think the delay by 1 week gave teams a chance to do that, because I don't think people think about our hiring cycle. Every one of those teams is competing against somebody else and another team. And sometimes you get in that rush. I don't think people felt that. I think people took the time. They understood the candidates. They did an excellent job of interviewing them. We had panels, we had education. I think the accelerator program, I think all the things that were done by the clubs over the last several years paid dividends, and we'll continue that.
Over here, Bob Hottie, Associated Press.
Hey, Bob.
Given the progress that you've made with minority head coaches being at a record pace right now, 9, have you given any consideration to potentially eliminating the room rule? And what would it take if you had maybe reached that point where it's not necessary to have a room?
Well, those are two different things. You know, not having it be necessary would be a wonderful world for us. I personally believe that it's still necessary because I think we want to show the benefits of looking at a diverse slate of candidates. To be able to do that is benefited every one of our clubs, our league office, I think our partners, I think people across the world in different industries have absolutely adopted this rule. And so I see it for the foreseeable future. I think it's been beneficial and we'll continue it.
Senator Mark Maskey, Washington Post. Roger, where we are on kickoffs right now and what happened with the one-year change, do you think sort of more significant changes are imperative this offseason? And if so, do you believe that's the XFL model or is it something else? Where do you think that's going?
Mark, we said last year, first off, as you know, this was a one-year rule. For me, I thought this rule was necessary for the 1 year because we need to innovate. We need to work with our coaches and our competition committee and those across the league to find a way to keep the kickoff in the game. It's an exciting play. It's important for us. The same for punts. But when you see a higher injury rate for that play, you can't ignore that. And we haven't yet found that solution. And I think we've proven over the last several years, you can make the game safer and more exciting at the same time. And that's our objective here. And I'm confident we'll get to that. It's going to take a little work, but this is a one-year rule, so I hope that that will be a major focus this spring.
On our left, Jared Bell, USA Today.
Oh, hi, Roger. Two questions, actually. Both related,
That's a shocker, JB.
both related to playing surfaces. As we get ready to have a Super Bowl on a grass field and a dome. The FIFA sites were finalized now, and there are several situations where stadiums will install natural grass and conceivably switch that back out to artificial turf. What message do you think that sends to NFL players that you wouldn't have stadiums that would have natural grass all the time? Do you support having all stadiums have natural grass?
You want to do your second question, too? You want me to go first?
You can go.
Okay. Listen, this has been a major focus, as you know, with our union, with the Players Association, and we have jointly worked with experts to try to study this question. It's something that I think it's not always just grass or synthetic. We think hybrid is something to really explore. That's actually what they use in international soccer, is a hybrid type of format. Additionally, I think, we've got to look at different circumstances, right? You play in a dome for 4.5 months. It's pretty hard to grow grass. So you can sometimes take it in and out. You can find ways of trying to replace that. But we want to try to get the best possible field surfaces. And that is something that it varies from market to market, climate from climate. One of the things that we think is really important in the studies that we're doing is consistency. And when I say consistency, it's not just on the entire playing surface, but it's consistency of what players are playing on during the week leading up to the game, what they're practicing on, and what they play on. And that consistency is really important according to our engineers and our experts. So we're looking at that with the Players Association and hope we can find better solutions and continue that focus.
That being said, it leads to the second question about the practice surface. There are reports that 49ers players and staff are not happy with the practice field at UNLV. Are there alternatives being worked on as we speak now that may lead to?
You mean the natural grass surface that we put down? Is that to go to your first question? Listen, the JB, that work is being done every single day. We've had 23 experts out there. We've had the union out there. All of them think that's a very playable surface. It's softer than what they have practiced on, but that happens. It's well within all of our testing standards. It is something that we think all our experts, as well as neutral field inspectors, have all said unanimously that it's a playable field.
Let's go right next to Jared, Sal Paolantonio, ESPN.
Hi, Sal.
Roger, business now talking about gambling. What can we do to make sure that we're not causing undue additional harm? What additional harm is she talking about? How much of a priority is this for you? And what message do you send to folks out there who say it's too late now?
Well, I don't know. The first time I've heard that quote was when you just read it. So I can't speak for Anna on that case. I certainly would ask her to be able to expand on that. But I think the harm is potentially to two things: the game itself that we talked about before, the integrity of the game. We want to make sure it doesn't harm the game. That people, when they're watching an NFL game, they know the action on the field is genuine and without any outside influence. Number one, and that's 1, 2, and 3. I think the other one is the work that Anna spends an awful lot of time on, which is responsible gambling. We are the only league to do our own spots on responsible gambling to make sure our fans understand the dangers of irresponsible gambling. And we also ask our partners. And one of the things that we've worked with our partners, particularly in the gambling space, is what information, how can they help educate us and our fans? How can they give us information that will allow us to make sure we're treating our fans properly, giving them the opportunities to engage safely, responsibly, but also protect our game? Hi, Sam.
I'm interested in the decision to put a playoff game on Kickoff. A lot of fans were upset about that, the playoff game being behind the paywall. I'm sure that pushback was not surprising to the league. And I wonder if that's the price of progress and innovation for the NFL, and what the plans are, if there's an expanded plan for streaming games next season.
Well, Sam, I think you first have to back up a little bit and sort of understand where the media landscape is going. It's changing faster and deeper. Consumers are moving off of pay television services and going into digital streaming services and platforms. And we as the NFL have to be able to reach our fans there. One of the most positive things about the Peacock game was not just the fact that it outdrew the broadcast audience a year earlier in the same window. So people went there, experienced it. It worked technically in an incredible way, and our partners at Peacock and NBC, we give a lot of credit to them for that. But it also reduced our average age of the audience by almost 10 years. So youth audiences are going to those platforms and those apps, and we have to make sure our content is there. We still have over 90% of our games on free television. No other league, no other sports comes close to that. When we were in the 80s, when we moved to ESPN and we went behind to pay TV, there was the same outcry. But what we did is we created a platform that fans can engage with, have access to, that is actually beneficial to the consumers because that's where they are. We have to fish where the fish are, and we have a lot of consumers that are on those platforms. And Peacock Games showed that. Amazon showed that over the last 2 years. Their ratings were up 24% this year. We saw it with YouTube in our Sunday ticket package, doubled the number of subscribers. So our fans are on these platforms. Our fans want to access them. The technology is extraordinary. You can do things on some of these platforms that you can't do on a linear platform. So for us, it's part of the future. I don't know where it goes from here, but we're going to continue to reach our fans where they are with the best possible production, the best possible technology.
Just to follow up on Sam, I get the question often lately, could we see a streaming Super Bowl in the future?
Well, certainly not in my time. I still believe, and even on some of the pay services, listen, one of the secrets of our success is we are really committed to broadcast television. As I said, 90% of our games are on broadcast and free over-the-air television. I think it's the reason why you will see over 200 million people watch this game here in the United States, because it's on broadcast television and the broadest possible platform. And our credit to CBS, they've built a great platform for us. But there's also a digital stream of Paramount Plus. And we want to support that because there are some fans that are watching on Paramount Plus a lot. So I think it's, again, we'll see Super Bowl continue to be on the broadest platform. I think we'll continue to see the NFL on the broadest possible platform. 23 million people watch that wild card game.
Roger, I'm going to try the two-part question thing as well. So as you reflect on this season, what's your thoughts on the continued growth of the league internationally? And of course, we know Brazil is going to be a new venue in 2024. We know the venue, the site of that game. Are there any further developments with regards to the Brazil league?
Well, Neil, you know this because I speak to you when I get over to London and Germany every year, and we are just incredibly enthusiastic about our growth on a global basis. We are convinced we can be a global sport in the near future. Our ownership has committed to allow more games to be played on an annual basis, on a global basis. We are excited about the fans' reaction, our media partners. I think this is a great opportunity for the league, and we are committed to making it a global sport. You mentioned Brazil. Brazil is new for us this year. We are incredibly excited. We're going to do it on our kickoff weekend, which is an unusual approach and different than we've ever done. We actually are going to play it on Friday night of our kickoff weekend. So we'll have Thursday night as our kickoff game. Friday night we'll come back from Brazil in Sao Paulo. The Philadelphia Eagles will be the host team in Sao Paulo. And then we'll come back with Sunday night and Monday night, and obviously a great group of games on Sunday afternoon with our two partners. So we think this is giving us an ability to access more fans, not just here in the States, but on a global basis. And I think it's going to be a huge hit. We're excited. Could you repeat your name? Hi, Jay.
First and foremost, the Bears are looking to build a new enclosed stadium in Chicagoland. How important is that to the league, and could that lead to a Super Bowl in the future?
I think it's important to the Chicago Bears, their fans. I think it's also important to that community. I think, as we have seen here, a great stadium can host additional events. I think that's true in Chicago. I think the Dome Stadium that they're talking about, both downtown and also potentially in Arlington, I think those are both great opportunities that they need to explore. The good news is they've got quite a bit of time on their lease. The Bears are committed to being in Chicagoland. I talked to the mayor of Chicago recently. He wants them in the city. Arlington wants it out in Arlington. I think they'll be able to develop a proposal that will be good for the fans, but I also think it'll be great for Chicago.
Roger, I know you've been asked a lot of gambling and integrity questions, but specifically you said in 2012 that gambling is permitted freely on sporting events, normal incidents of the game such as bad snaps, drop passes, turnovers, penalties, and play calling inevitably will fuel speculation, distrust, and accusations of point shaving or game fixing. Fast forward to now, do you see that speculation happening, and what is the NFL doing to counter or prevent it?
Well, I think, Shireen, that's exactly what I was talking about before, is protecting the integrity of the game. Making sure that our fans understand that what they see out there does not have any undue influence. We have to educate our personnel. That goes from owners to players to coaches to everybody in the organization, to everyone at the league level, to our partners, making sure that they understand while people can speculate, people can have perceptions, we have to hold that standard as high as we possibly can. I haven't heard an awful lot of that, but you do hear. There are people out there that say those things, whether they're irresponsible or not. I think we've proven it in the way we enforce those rules. We have suspended a number of players for betting on the NFL or involvement with gambling activity. We have suspended a number of personnel, both at the club level and the league level, for the same. We've actually terminated employees. So we will do that, and we take this incredibly serious. So we understand the risk. We did not make the decision. Ultimately, the decision was a decision by the Supreme Court. they legalize sports betting. We have to adapt. We have to embrace it. We have been cautious. We have been very thoughtful, I think, in our approach. But we know the risk, and protecting the integrity is number one.
Hi, Roger. You mentioned the Taylor Swift effect earlier, and I can speak from experience that the young girls, including my daughter, are newly invested in the NFL because of they get to see Taylor Swift on Sundays. It has felt for a long time that the way that the NFL has wanted to engage with women has been largely cosmetic, pink shirts, sequins, and now you have this new fan base that has fallen into the lap. What do you guys plan to do to ensure that this new audience sticks around long after Taylor Swift stops showing up at games or the Kelsey brothers are no longer involved?
Well, first I'd say as a parents of 22-year-old twin girls, and my daughters and all of our family are Swifties for going back to where we met her, I think, back in New Orleans in 2009. Again, she's an extraordinary performer. But our girls love Taylor Swift, but they also love football. They know an awful lot about football. So I think this is just about welcoming people into the game. It's giving people a different perspective of the game. It's giving them an opportunity to say, wow, that's exciting. And I see it. I see it with others. I see it with their friends. I see it with others around. We hear the stories. We see the data. People are talking about the game that weren't talking about the game yesterday. And whatever that reason is, I'm good with it, as long as they get exposure to our game. And Taylor is obviously a dynamo. Everything she touches, there are people following. And so we count ourselves fortunate, and we welcome it.
Leagues continue to place an emphasis on furthering its efforts to make the game as safe as it can be. Considering any data that you may have in regards to the injuries we've seen this past season, specifically head and lower extremity injuries, what's your assessment of the results and what are some of the significant driving forces behind that?
You're right. This has been a major issue for us. I think we've made tremendous progress, but there's still more work to be done. This year, we saw 700 game loss injuries reduced this season. So players that missed a game because of an injury, 700 times, that's lower this year than it was last year. That's huge, very significant for our players, for our teams, for our fans, ultimately. So that's a very positive trend. Most of those really began in the training camp period where lower extremity injuries occur. So the hamstring pulls and the ankle injuries. We had ACLs that were down a significant amount this year. Interesting enough, we saw a big increase where twice as many of them happened on grass than on synthetic surfaces. So all this data needs to be evaluated, studied, exactly the mechanism of injury, looking at video, having our engineers, having our medical people look at that. We need to keep that study going. It has made us smarter. It has given us an ability to adapt our training camp period where we have this ramp up, where when we bring them into camp, we don't throw the pads on and go right out there and start, practicing at full level. They come in and they are going through a ramp-up period to be prepared for that and to avoid those lower extremity injuries or any injury so that it doesn't affect them later in the season. On the head injuries, it's not just concussions, which are basically the same in the last 3 or 4 years since some of our major changes. We keep looking at that. This year we'll have, I believe it's 8 new position-specific helmets that should be, we'll see a couple on Sunday. That will be a big advancement in technology. I think we've always said that'll be part of our future. I think that will be helpful. We saw the Guardian Cap this year. The Guardian Cap, again, had a 50% reduction in concussions for the players who wore it in training camp. And that has a carryover into the regular season, because if they get into the regular season, and particularly later in the season healthier, that's going to ultimately lead to less injuries. So a lot of progress, but a lot more work to do.
Roger, I have 2 questions. First one, we saw this offseason, the Patriots hiring Roger
Well, let me go to the second question because you're talking about it. I don't think it means it's not working. I think these programs take a while. Those offensive assistants are young. They need the ability to have exposure to the experiences, to grow, to be able to get the kind of experience to become offensive coordinators and then head coaches. So I think it's too early to say it's not working. I don't accept that at this stage. Your first part of the question was on the Rooney Rule and the Patriots. I also don't take the same approach that just was done to skirt the Rooney Rule. Robert Kraft made that commitment a year ago in the contract with Gerard Mayo, said that if Bill Belichick's not the head coach, you will be the head coach. I think that's smart management. Ultimately, we all want to keep our people, develop our people. He knew that Gerard Mayo was head coaching material. That is, I think, a very positive thing for teams to do. So I don't believe it's skirting the Rooney Rule. I actually believe it's benefiting our players and our coaches to have that kind of stability in our clubs. Well, if you're making a commitment, someone's going to be a head coach a year from now. I don't think that's proven to be a subversion of that. So I don't see that. If that becomes reality, we'll have to address that. But again, I think there's a really smart approach to be able to develop our own personnel and put them in the positions of being head coaches. That's a good thing, ultimately.
Hey, Roger. Back to what you said about ensuring the integrity of the game, and you gave the example of that you actually terminated club and league employees for violating gambling policy.
We have done league. Clubs do their own terminations.
Okay. I know the league does a lot of the investigating for that. So I wanted to see if you could reveal how many club or league employees have been punished for violating the gambling policy, and what support does the league offer them after they have been terminated or punished?
I think it depends on the circumstances. I believe the last number I saw was 25. And I think we have roughly 13 players that have been involved with some discipline. I think it depends on the circumstances of what it is. If they were betting on NFL, you're terminated automatically. That's it.
So here, Aaron Smith from Kansas City.
Mr. Goodell, thank you so much. Sure. I have one question, following up on the question about the peacock. I guess for the average person, how much money is too much money for the NFL to try to get out of the road?
Well, this is developing platforms. Just to be clear, this is developing a platform that a lot of consumers are on. A lot of our fans are moving in that direction. They're not just getting an NFL game; they're getting, a value in the sense of $5.99. I think it was for a month of the service, and they could get it for $30, $29.99 for a year. That's entertainment. That's where people are going, right? They're looking for those opportunities to expand on the amount of content they can acquire through these platforms. That's ultimately good for the consumers, but it's important for us to be on those platforms because that's where consumers are, particularly the younger demographic.
And also, look, I know I'm out of Kansas City. I've had dreams of maybe working for the NFL Network.
I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. What?
I'm out of Kansas City, so I've had dreams of working for the NFL Network one day. But be that as it may, I know that you don't run the NFL in your newsroom, but you do run the NFL, and they answer to you along with the 32 owners. At this press conference, the NFL media newsroom still employs 0 black managers, 0 black copy editors, 0 full-time black employees from the news desk, and your only full-time black employee, Larry Campbell, has rails the weekend. Now, Mr. Jim Trotter is not here, for whatever reason. Over the last years, I've asked you why that is the case. And for a league that has more than 60% African Americans that play the game, I know that you're a man of conscience. How does knowing this sit well with you, and after 2 years of being asked this question, why has there not been any change in the hiring?
Well, I disagree completely with you. There hasn't been any change. I'm happy to get your data and share it with our people and make sure that we get an answer for you. I don't have all the data. I will tell you that the first time ever, 51% of our employees across the league, across the network, across all of our media platforms, not including players, are either people of color or women. First time ever. So progress is being made. And there are areas where we still need to work and still need to improve, whether it's offensive assistants or maybe people in our media newsroom. We will continue to do that and make significant progress as we have.
Roger, it's been more than 2.5 years since you said you were looking for strategic options for NFL media. That deal hasn't happened yet. I mean, by most accounts, it's not particularly close. Why specifically do you think that hasn't happened yet? And then do you feel a sense of urgency given all of the changes in media and the increasing pace of changes and your ownership of a large legacy media company?
I think how we've adapted and changed the media landscape has been quite progressive, frankly. If you look at the fact we're the first to put a package on full season with Amazon, on Amazon Prime, you look at where we did with YouTube, you look at where we were with Peacock, I think we've been cautious and bold at the same time with respect to how we used our content to drive those platforms and to drive where our fans are, right? Our fans are there, so we need to be able to access those fans. And that's how you reach the broadest number of people, ultimately. So there's a lot of speculation. I would say not all of it accurate about our various conversations, but our relationship and our discussions with our media partners and non-media partners about the NFL content and how we can use NFL content to reach more fans, I'm very optimistic and positive about. We're not under a time frame. I'm not worried about someone telling me it's been 2 years. We want to make the right decisions. We want to get the right partners with the right content so we reach our fans and provide them a better experience.
Yeah, hey, Roger. Some court documents just surfaced that said that you had an email that showed that you instructed people to launch a ground war on negative reporting of concussions. I want to give you the chance to add context to those comments and then also explain why that was necessary.
We want reporting that's going to be accurate and it's based on fact and to fully understand what we're doing in the space, understand what is still in dispute in the medical world, and to understand that we're putting significance, tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, into making sure we understand where the medical community is and advancing the medical community in their thinking. That's critically important for us. So, yes, we don't want people inaccurately reporting information. We want them to understand where we are, how we're making the game safer, the things that we're doing in research, but also the things we're doing to make sure that we're making our game safer, taking techniques out of the games, modifying rules, making sure that we're adding extra protection in so that we can identify when players are injured. People didn't think we could change our culture. Our players are now raising their hand when they have a concussion, potentially, or when they see somebody else. Our coaches are doing it. Those are all positive moves that are going to make the game safer for our players. And we need to make sure people understand those steps.
Stay on our left. Superintendent Brandon from Las Vegas.
Hello, Roger. One quick question. Why do you like football, and what inspired you to create it?
What inspired me to what? I don't know, Brandon. I've been a football fan since I was 5 or 6 years old. I told the story that somebody gave me a Duke football back in the early 60s. I slept with that for months, literally. I love the game. I love playing the game. I love watching the game. I love what it represents. I love the fact that it brings people together in an amazing way. I love the fact that it has a positive influence on communities. To me, the game of football is much bigger than a game. I actually believe the things that I learned playing football and I see in football are incredibly relevant to what I do today. It's the same approach: hard work, teamwork, discipline, how you work for something bigger than yourself. I think there's so many values about this game that means so much to me personally, but I think means so much to fans and to people. And I think that's why our fan base is so passionate and so large, is the game of football transcends so much of what's going on in our society. And I think our game brings people together. And that's inspiring to me.
Hey, Roger. The Taylor Swift stuff got pretty political in the past week or so. What's your response as like her being attached to the league is from like a polarizing issue?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
What's your response to Taylor being involved in the league? Her that being like polarizing kind of like about it?
Listen, I think anybody in the society, when they're in a public position, are going to be subject to criticism. And I think the idea that this was in a script and this is pre-planned, that's just, it's nonsense. It's frankly not even worth talking about. We see two people are really happy together, having fun together. I think that's wonderful, and I wish them well. They're both wonderful people. The fact that, you know, they both are involved with football in some fashion through their relationship, that's great. We welcome that.
Hey, Roger. As NFL team valuations rise,
I'm sorry, I don't see you.
purchase teams gross.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
I'll start over. As NFL team valuations rise and the circle of people that can afford to purchase teams grows smaller, wondering how that complicates succession planning for owners. And on that note, if you have any updates on potential rule changes to allow private equity investors to buy into teams.
Yes, listen, when franchise values increase, sometimes that makes, you know, a franchise less affordable to a certain, you know, segment of our population. Less people may be available to do that. That's why we are looking at our ownership policies and looking at them in every context. How do we bring diversity to our ownership? In the last, you'll remember 2 years ago at the league, the ownership voted in a resolution to attract diverse ownership groups. In the last two transactions, in the case of the Denver Broncos, I believe, off the top of my head, it was 36% of that team was purchased by women or people of color. And the same in Washington, I believe there are 5 people of color in that franchise, I believe, for about 16 or 18% of the team, somewhere in that area. So it's intentional. And we need to be intentional to make sure that our policies not only attract the best ownership group, but diverse ownership. And how do we make sure that our model continues to stay strong by having the kind of fundamentals to our policies that are going to ensure our teams are secure and are operated properly? So it's not just policies, but we are very focused on ownership. Ownership is a critical ingredient in our success, not just locally, but also at the league level.
Hi, Roger. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I know that we are seeing more people of color get jobs, you know, in this hiring cycle with the head coaches, but I wanted to know what you thought about the trend with the youth movement, seeing younger coaches get opportunities relative to the older coaches outside of Jim Harbaugh, because I was talking to one candidate that felt like they were coming in and being asked to be assistant head coaches to mentor younger head coaches and whether their opportunities are dwindling, and then separately to cut that off, how you feel about a person like Bill Belichick having the resume that he has and being out of a head coaching opportunity, and to what degree relationships are still factoring jobs or people who got jobs, particularly in the NFC South.
A lot there. Let me try to make sure I address all that you've asked about. I'd start with the fact that the NFL is incredibly competitive on and off the field. And it's hard to win in this league. To your point, maybe the greatest coach in NFL history isn't coaching this year. But I think what our teams are focused on is the future. How do we continue to bring in the most talented coaches, the most talented general managers, the most talented administrators, everything about our league continues to increase in its quality and its talent. And our clubs are looking for that in every direction. And I think that's the point about our policies and our processes. The better our processes, the better the outcome. If our clubs continue to go through the process of finding the best people in their positions and understanding that diversity is critical and important for our future and bringing that best talent, I think we're going to continue to succeed. And there'll be younger coaches, maybe older coaches. I've had several of the older coaches call me and say, I want to mentor some of these younger coaches. I'm a big believer in mentoring. I think all of us need mentoring. I think that's a positive thing ultimately.
Playing off a little bit of what you seem to bring out, just your reaction to the fact that Bill Belichick does not have a job in the NFL right now.
You know, that guy is one of the great coaches in our history. He's extraordinary, and what he's accomplished is amazing to me. And I've talked to him since the end of the season. I think he's done so much for this league. He's changed the game in many ways. He's brought innovation, and I don't think anyone could take anything away from his record, whether he's coaching or not. I think he'll be missed, but I have a feeling that he'll still be around the game somehow. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
So the years between 2016 and 2021 were very volatile in terms of players getting a voice, players taking positions, in some cases even pushing the NFL to take certain positions. So I'm wondering, in a very contentious political cycle getting ready to come up, would you rather players just kind of stay out of it, or did that 5-year period teach you or give you comfort that voice is good, that you prefer players to have voice?
I do prefer our players have voices, and I would tell you that I learned an awful lot from our players, not just during that period of time, but every single day. I get more great suggestions, whether they're texts or calls, from our current players as well as our retired players, that gives me perspective and helps me think about the world differently. We're living in a volatile world. So the one thing that all of our players have gotten behind, our clubs have gotten behind, is NFL votes. We all think it's really important for us to encourage our fans, to encourage our communities, to get out and vote, become educated, understand what's happening in our communities and nationwide when that occurs, and vote. That is the one thing about our democracy that's really important, and our players and our clubs all got behind that issue, and we'll continue to do that this year. Hey, Judy.
Return to officiating. This year, the criticism came not just from fans, but also quite publicly from players and coaches, and they seem particularly concerned with the consistency of officiating across the league. Are you comfortable yourself with the level of consistency across the league, and that the league is doing everything that can be done to improve it?
I will never say that we're doing everything, because we're going to keep looking for new things to do. But consistency is the number one thing you want in officiating, no doubt about it. But, Judy, you mentioned things about some of the criticism, but let's go back to that Kansas City-Buffalo game. It's a very good example of the scrutiny and the position our officials are in. That was absolutely the right call. I don't think there's anybody in this room who would say it was not the right call. The official made that call correctly. There was criticism of that. That was unfounded. If they had not called that play, think of the criticism would have come from Buffalo. So even when the official gets it right, there's criticism. So while we're always going to try to get better, I think people have to understand to some extent how these officials are put in that position. And they do an extraordinary job. We will use technology. We'll continue to train them. We'll continue to look to how we make the game more consistent from an officiating standpoint. But that's a perfect example of the fact that people can put the C word to it. It was a critical call. They've got to make a decision. They're making a quick decision, and they have to make that. And I'm proud of the fact that they did that.
Roger, before we wrap up, I thought maybe this question would be asked, but in terms of diversity, how do you ensure more women are given opportunities in the NFL?
Yeah, it's a huge effort of ours, Tracy. Across football, in a few weeks, we'll be going to Indianapolis for the Combine, but we have a women's forum there where we've had women that want to get into the football side of the business. We've had 150 young women, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years that have been hired into football, both at the college level and the NFL level. We see it on all levels. We have a woman president of the Las Vegas Raiders sitting right here, Sandra Douglas Morgan. Extraordinarily talented person who is leading the Raiders in a terrific way. So, again, it's about attracting the best talent. And women can do this in the football areas. I think we have 12 full-time coaches. I think the numbers continue to grow, and I think that's, to me, that's going to be a very positive trend going forward.
Okay, finally, we have a great matchup ahead. Put on your analyst hat for us and critique what you think this game is going to come down to, and do you have a pick?
I definitely do not have a pick. I know better. Listen, I think the beauty of our game and the beauty of where we are right now is that the league is so competitive. There are a lot of analysts. There are a lot of predictions. There are a lot, and they're very hard to do. I'm glad I'm not sitting in that position. As commissioner, I don't have to do that. I'm proud of both these teams. I think they're both fantastic. I hope it's going to be, they both play a great football game. I want them to play their best, and I think it'll be a fantastic game.
That's what we're hoping for. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Trace. Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Saturday. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll see. We're meeting Saturday morning. Yeah, the finance meeting. And but we'll see. No. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. We'll see if we'll see you several times before then. I'm sure. We'll see you several times before then.
Brad, good job.